Hey YouTube, I just wanted to make this quick video just talking a little bit about water bath canning and a little bit of the science behind it, and also just some quick rules of thumb that can be used in order to water bath can pretty much anything. Water bath canning foods, it's usually two types of foods. One is high acid foods and the other is low acid foods. So with high acid foods, these are things like tomatoes, tomato sauce, pickles. These things have either high amounts of vinegar or just are generally highly acidic all by themselves, like apples and tomatoes. In the pressure canning community, I think across the board, people would agree that you can water bath can high acid foods. So, where we have a little bit of a disagreement is when it comes to water bath canning low acid foods. So, low acid foods are generally considered to be foods like the vegetables and meats that we would pressure can in a pressure canner. The temperatures of a pressure canner get to 240 and up to 250 degrees, whereas the temperature in a water bath canner gets up to about 212 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature of 212 degrees Fahrenheit in a water bath canner is enough to kill most bacteria and yeast. The biggest one that people are generally afraid of is the botulism toxin. The botulism toxin is known to be a toxin that is in pressure canned foods, home canned foods, and it can be found in soil and even in the air, actually. But the thing about it is, botulism in and of itself, like getting botulism, is very rare. And out of the people, it can be dangerous and it can be even lethal. Like it can cause death, 5 to 10% of the small amount of people who end up with botulism. I don't think it's something that you need to be extremely fearful of, but more aware. So for botulism, the toxin, 185 degrees or higher will kill the toxin. So that's fine. Across the board, water bath canning or pressure canning can handle that. It's the spores that can be the problem. And water bath canning doesn't get high enough because you need 240 to 250 degree Fahrenheit temperatures to kill botulism spores. So that doesn't mean necessarily that you can't water bath can low acid foods. It just means you need to be a little bit more careful when you prepare your foods. So, for example, when you water bath can meat, you may put it up on your shelf for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, a couple of years. When you're ready to eat that meat, you're going to take it off your shelf. And in most cases, people would automatically just heat it up on the stove. And this is actually the answer to any doubts somebody might have as to whether their food actually has botulism spores in it. Because when you heat something up on the stovetop, the temperatures, even at medium heat, will get to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And remember, all you need is 240 to 250 degrees Fahrenheit to kill the botulism spores. I don't think there is really any need to be alarmist about water bath canning. As long as you follow some simple steps, I think everybody could do this safely. And remember, people have been doing it for hundreds of years and been doing it safely. I don't think back in the day they knew that meats, for example, needed to cook for 3 hours in order to get to a core temperature of 212 degrees in order to kill most bacteria and yeast. But the science behind it is exactly that. That's what was happening, I believe. So I just wanted to also talk about what I think of as maybe a checklist or a cheat sheet or some sort of rule of thumb that you can use when you're water bath canning. I found a lot of recipes online to have a general consensus, but it's not always pinpointed. Like one person will water bath can their tomato sauce for 20 minutes where somebody does it for 15, for example. But there is a general rule of thumb that I see going on. And I think what it is that high acid foods will always be enough of a harmful environment for botulism that you don't need to water bath can them for very long. So high acid foods are between 10 and 20 minutes. That's my rule of thumb. You can do your own research. Now, low acid foods can come in two categories. So you can have a low acid food that's by itself, or you can have a low acid food that is paired with a high acid food like tomato juice. So recently I did a video on water bath canning a recipe called spaghetti soup. The spaghetti soup did have ground beef, and we know in most cases you're going to water bath can meat across the board for 3 hours. In this case, the recipe called for a 2-hour water bath canning time, even though the spaghetti soup recipe had beef in it. It had ground beef. The reason is because it was paired with tomato juice, which is a high acid food. Some people do water bath canned potatoes, for example. Those should usually be water bath canned for 3 hours. But if you add a teaspoon of vinegar to each and every one of your pint or quart jars, now that water bath canning cook time can be reduced to 2 hours. So when you're just kind of trying to get a general idea of how long you need to pressure can something, your high acid foods are going to be a short cook time, 10 to 20 minutes, and your low acid foods are going to be 3 hours across the board unless it's got some sort of acidic base added to it, in which case you can reduce your cooking time to 2 hours. And so if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them if I know the answer. And I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. God bless you. Bye for now.